What is up, Packer people? Happy Monday. Welcome into an all-new episode of the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can follow the podcast at Pack a Day Podcast. Of course, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, give those 5-star reviews. We always appreciate those a ton. And if you get a chance, check out those Pack a Day Podcast YouTube memberships as well. Today, we are finishing up our third part of our 3-part series, ranking the Packers from 90 to 1. And if you missed it on Saturday, we went from 90 to 61. On Sunday, we went from 60 to 31. And today, we rank the top 30 Packers for 2024. I'm excited to get into this one. There's certainly going to be some interesting discussions with a variety of these players. Some players are clear starters, but they've been injured or they've had issues on the field. There are some players that are rookies on this list that we are certainly projecting a little bit. There are other players who we're excited about, but it's still a little bit of a projection as well. So getting the order right here is going to be difficult, but I promise you I am going to try my best. So we left off yesterday. I'm not going to go through the entire 60 that we've done already, but our final 5 in yesterday's episode, numbers 35 to 31, just to kind of get you caught up a little bit. If you haven't viewed those already, if you haven't, go do so. But number 35 was Isaiah McDuffie. Number 34 was Evan Williams. 33 was Colby Wooden. 32 was Jordan Morgan. And 31 was Kingsley Enagbare. That brings us to number 30 and kicking off today's list. And I guess kicking off is maybe the appropriate saying here. He doesn't do kickoffs, but you'll get my point anyway. That is Daniel Whelan. And this is an interesting one. On the one hand, he's a punter. Could he have been maybe lower on this list simply because how much impact does the punter have and so on and so forth? Sure. However, he's been pretty freaking good. At least he was in his first season with the Packers, and he killed it at OTAs and minicamps. He looks better even than he did a season ago. And I'm excited about Daniel Whelan. I think they found their punter. I think hopefully this long situation where the Packers have never really found an adequate punter for a really long time, seemingly since Craig Hentrick. There were a couple good seasons mixed in there from a couple different punters, but it's been an issue. And I think it's done being an issue. And in and of itself, just because of that, I had to put Daniel Whelan in this final group today, in this list, on the top 30. I couldn't really go higher than 30. That's about as far as I could go for a punter, but I thought he deserved the shout out. So he comes in at number 30 at the bottom of today's list, but certainly deserving of that spot in the final third. Number 29 is one of those players that I think we're all excited about to some extent. You guys know how excited I am about him if you've listened for any period of time at all, but he's in an interesting position where he's number 5 on his list of position players. And as I mentioned, he is still a bit of a projection, and that is Bo Melton. Personally, I probably could have put him higher on this list, and I would not have felt wrong about it at all. I think you could make an argument that the Packers' number 5 wide receiver being ranked at number 29 is maybe a little bit aggressive as well, but I feel like this spot is just about right. I've talked about it a million times. I saw Bo Melton as somebody coming out of college that I thought could be successful. I was hoping they were going to pick him up off of Seattle's practice squad. They did. He then had basically about a year of nothingness. We didn't hear anything about Bo Melton. He didn't do a ton in preseason training camp, OTAs, mini camps a season ago. And then all of a sudden, he gets activated. He gets to play on game days. There was a game before he even broke out where I mentioned him and I said, Bo Melton showed up on tape. I was intrigued and I'm excited to see more of him. And then he goes on to be the first Packer last year to have over 100 yards receiving. He continued to be in the rotation even after all the receivers were healthy. This is a dude that can freaking play. And I really, truly believe that. I do not believe last year was this flash in the pan or just a one-year wonder. He got lucky at the right time. I don't think any of that. I think he can flat out play. I know he can flat out fly. I know he's got run after the catch ability. He showed off great hands. He showed he could go up and get the ball. He showed he could run away from defenders. He's got it. He really does. He can play a little on the outside. He can play in the slot. I think there's more to Bo Melton than even what we've seen so far. Now, as I mentioned, he's a little bit buried. Maybe not even a little bit. He's buried, right? I think he's going to get playing time just like he did at the end of last season, even going into playoff games. But When you have Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson and Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed, when you've got two tight ends in Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, and we've got running backs like, Josh Jacobs and Marshawn Lloyd and AJ Dillon, there's just a ton of mouths to feed. How many balls are going to be left for your number 5 wide receiver? And that's still, you still have Malik Heath as number 6 too. Like, there are just so many mouths to feed. And I don't know what type of impact Bo Melton's going to be able to have in the spot that he's in, but I trust his talent. I trust if he gets opportunities, he's going to make the most of them. And Matt LaFleur shouted him out for his run blocking ability as well. And if you're a receiver who can block, you're going to get in Matt LaFleur's offense. He is going to put priority over players that can't block, because it is such a key part of opening things up for the running backs, for these wide receiver screens, for everything. It is a piece of this offense that should not go unrecognized. So I feel like Bo Melton correctly ranked here at 29. If anyone wants to move him higher, I'm kind of with you. If they want to move him lower, well, you are on my bad side, and I disagree with you vehemently, and go find another podcast. I'm kidding. I love you nonetheless. But I feel like this is about right for Bo Melton. 28 and 27 are insanely difficult to place on this list. I will start with 28, and that is Josh Myers. Not a big Josh Myers guy, but he is the starting center. He's almost surely going to be one of the top 5 offensive linemen. There could be some room for maneuvering if they want to move a Jenkins or a Zach Tom to center, or if somehow Jacob Monk just balls out and is all of a sudden better than Josh Myers. I don't necessarily see that happening. And the real reason, especially, I don't see it is because they've already said that Josh Myers is not going to cross-train at any other position, which kind of gives you the hint that he's going to be the starting center. Now, he is in the last year of his deal. He'll be a free agent next offseason. Maybe we get the best version of Josh Myers this year. And maybe we actually do see the best Josh Myers that's ever played for the Packers. That'd be great. I would love to see it. I've told you in the past, I really liked Josh coming out, not as much as the guy that went right after him. We all know that story, but I did like him. I had him as a late second, early third round grade, right where Green Bay drafted him. So this is somebody that I thought coming out of college was going to be a good center. I thought as a rookie, he looked pretty solid. Some ups and downs, had some injury issues that year, but I thought when he played, he certainly was helping more than he was hurting. And then it's just kind of taken a step back ever since then. And we haven't really seen what I believe is the Josh Myers that everyone thought he was going to be, or at least the Packers thought he was going to be when he was taken late in the second round. So this is a huge year for Josh Myers. He's going to be the starting center in all likelihood. He's in a contract year. Can he show out? Can he finally become what Green Bay was hoping for when they drafted him? Can Green Bay get a little bit more on the ROI from spending that second round pick on him? It's another player where if you wanted to move him a bit lower, I would certainly be willing to listen to that. I think moving him any higher would be a little bit difficult, but he comes in at number 28 on the list. And 27 is a very similar conversation, but maybe for some different reasons. That's former first-round pick Eric Stokes. Where do you want to place him? Rookie Eric Stokes comes in probably a little bit higher on this list. I know he comes in higher. The Eric Stokes that we saw as a second-year player, even before injury, and the Eric Stokes we saw last year coming back from injury probably is somewhere in the mid to late 30s, maybe even lower. Like, he was not impressive in those opportunities to play in year 2 and year 3. We think it looks like he's going to have every opportunity to earn that starting corner spot opposite Jair Alexander. In fact, when there were 2 practices where Jair was there and practicing, it was Stokes opposite him, and Carrington Valentine was down on the other end. Now, I do think Carrington Valentine's going to have something to say about this competition, but it seems like Stokes is very much in that conversation, and I would kind of put him as the leader in the clubhouse right now to earn that starting spot opposite Jair Alexander. Matt LaFleur's also went out of his way to say that he looks as good physically and mentally as he's ever seen Eric Stokes. So taking Matt LaFleur at his word, that means he's better than rookie Eric Stokes. Fingers crossed. If that's the case, like I said, he's probably ending up even higher on this list. This feels, for me personally, a little high for Eric Stokes at 27. But I think based on the fact that he was a first-round pick, we saw good Eric Stokes as a rookie. Whereas like Josh Myers, I was kind of debating between these two of who do you want to put higher. We've never really seen even I think a really good level of Josh Myers that I thought we even saw at least from Eric Stokes as a rookie. I don't think we've ever seen Myers play quite at that level that Stokes did in his rookie year. So we've at least seen it. And then he had a small step, or I'll say a big step back in year 2. And then he's just been injured ever since. And we haven't really had the opportunity to gauge who Eric Stokes is as a player. So I'm going a little bit here based on what we saw as a rookie. I'm going based on Matt LaFleur saying he's the best he's looked physically and mentally. I'm hoping he can stay healthy, and I'm hoping he has a real legitimate bounce back. This is the spot I put him at. Like I said, I would certainly be open to listening to, moving him down lower if you're not a Eric Stokes believer. And I'm a little bit struggling with, again, what I think he can maybe ultimately be. But I'm really hopeful, and I'm hoping for Eric Stokes' sake, that this is the year that he can stay fully healthy and show exactly why Green Bay made him a first-round pick. And I know every fan and certainly the Packers are hoping that can be the case as well. Number 26, talk about projections. We're going with the third-round pick here. That's Marshawn Lloyd. Now, Lloyd looked fantastic in OTA and minicamp, but it is so hard to put too much stock into that. It really is. He doesn't have pads on yet, and we've seen players that have come into OTAs and minicamps that have looked impressive right away, and then pads come on and they just fail out, or it just doesn't look anywhere near the same. Now, I'm going here based on what I saw in rookie minicamp, OTAs, and minicamps from Marshawn Lloyd, and I'm also going what I saw on tape in college. Daniel Jeremiah thought he was the best running back in this draft class, and seeing him live and in person, I can certainly understand why he felt that way. This is a legitimately talented dude. He is quick. He is fast. He can cut on a dime. He can get upfield. He can burst right by you. And he's got that short, compact build where if you try to arm tackle him, he's going to run through it. There are a lot of the PlayStation controller buttons that he has at his disposal to make people miss and to run away from defenders. I'm so excited about him. I am trying to temper my own expectations for what I think he can be based on what I saw in OTAs and minicamps. He has a long way to go. And as I talked about on his, breakdown, his deep dive as a rookie, he has 2 potential catastrophic issues for getting on the field, and that is fumbling and pass pro. I don't think he's brutal in pass pro, but he's got a long way to go to be good at it. So that's going to be something he has to figure out. And again, he cannot have fumbles if he wants to stay on the field. So those 2 are going to be paramount to his success. And we have nothing to really judge that off as of yet. It's still so early in the process. But man, as a running back, does he look clean? Does he look smooth? Does he look like he is going to be a problem for opposing defenses? And for that reason, yes, it's a projection, but I have him at number 26 on my list. Number 25, another really hard player to place here. That's Carrington Valentine. This kind of goes in our Bo Melton-ish discussion where we all think Carrington's going to be good. We all really like what we've seen so far. I think this is one of those cautionary tales of, hey, we all love rookies. Rookies are the last players in the entire NFL, maybe in all of sports, that get a bit more of a pass, where if they screw a couple things up, you're like, yeah, they're rookies, that's going to happen. And then in year 2, that goes away, and now mistakes are amplified and nobody has time for it anymore. And we saw that with Quentin Rollins. We saw it with Demarius Randall. We saw it to an extent with Eric Stokes. We've seen it with Josh Jones, the safety. We've seen it with a lot of different defensive backs. Josh Jackson, same thing, where as rookies, there were some positive signs from all the guys that I just mentioned, but there were also some negative signs. And we all wanted to look at the positives and say, imagine what they're going to be in year 2 and how much better they're going to be. And we're doing the same thing with Carrington Valentine. There was some good play from Carrington last year. There were also some plays where he would love to have back that were not up to par for a legitimate big-time starting corner in the NFL. However, you're willing to give him that accident forgiveness as a rookie and hope that in year 2 he takes that step and becomes better. But I can promise you, I can look you in the eye and promise you, if you get the same performance from Carrington Valentine that you did last year in year 2, you will have a ton or a huge different feel about Carrington. You will feel like, oh, he's not progressing. Like there's still a lot of mistakes on the field and maybe he can't be the starting corner in Green Bay, because it was okay to fine. Now it was really good, really, really good for a rookie 7th round pick that you weren't expecting anything from. And like I said, we're all hopeful. I am extremely hopeful. I loved what Carrington looked like in OTAs, mini camps, training camps a season ago. I loved what he looked like. I thought there were some hiccups on film in the regular season, which is exactly what you would expect out of a rookie 7th-round corner. And I am very, very high, which is why he's number 25 on my list. But my point being here, if he does not take that step, then you probably start immediately looking for another starting corner. And again, he might not even be anyway. Eric Stokes might just beat him out. It could easily be Stokes, Jair, and Keyshawn Nixon as your starting 3 corners. He might not even be a starter. In fact, right now, he's probably not. So this just kind of, again, he's a little bit in that no man's land of he might not be a starter. I really, really like him. I think we all liked him a season ago, but it was with that rookie lens and he needs to take a step in year 2. I don't know. This is where it comes out. To me, he's number 25. Very bullish on him still. Super hopeful that he does take that step. He put on a bunch of, functional strength. And, I do think he's going to take a step, but it's going to be up to Carrington Valentine just how good he can be this year and just how much of a step he ultimately takes. Number 24, Rasheed Walker. I love Rasheed Walker. The Packers are the ones that seem to be keeping on telling us that they don't have a full belief in Rasheed Walker. The reason being is like every time they're asked about him, they say, yeah, he's got a long way to go. He's got to keep improving. And there's just like every iteration of, yeah, he's doing fine, but we would love him to be better, which understandably, we would all love him to be better. And I love the fact that they're pushing him to be the best player that he can become because, quite frankly, I already like him. I think he's already good. And I would love if he became great. That'd be amazing. And then, of course, they draft a 1st-round left tackle that just so happens to play the same position primarily that Rasheed Walker does as well. So this is another one where, is Rasheed even going to start? There could be a world in which Jordan Morgan's your left tackle, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Sean Ryan, and Zach Tom. And Rasheed's not even starting. He becomes the new swing tackle. He's your new Yosh Nijman. I think that would be a severe waste of Rasheed Walker. I think he's clearly, to me, one of the best 5. But that's why he's a tough player to place on this list at number 24. I think you could even put him higher. But if he's not a starter, I guess he would technically, theoretically be one of your best backups on the team, which if you have 22 starters, then your 23rd and 24th players are your best backups on the team. And that's where he comes in at 24. But I'm very much very high on Rasheed Walker. I think he's only going to get better. Every time he's been challenged, he rises to the occasion. And Matt LaFleur made mention of that as well. He basically said, hey, we didn't know how Rasheed was going to respond when we picked up the left tackle in the draft in the 1st round. And like you said, there was no comments, there was no questions, he came in and he came ready, he came prepared, and he battled every single day. That's exactly what they wanted to see. So I think he's only going to get better. And I think the placement here at number 24 is certainly warranted. Number 23, LVN. It's another interesting one. Rotational edge rusher a season ago, 1st-round pick, all the talent in the world. We saw flashes. Man, did we see flashes. The play chasing down Justin Fields that most defensive end / outside linebackers aren't making. We saw a couple other sacks in the season that were impressive, but inconsistent. There looked at times like he didn't exactly know what to do on a play, specifically on some of the misdirection plays. He got sucked in far too many times and did not stay home and sort of do the Bill Belichick, do your job sort of thing. You're hoping that is just gone in year 2, and he has a much better feel for the defense, although he is now learning a new defense. He is now putting his hand in the dirt. So you're getting a different version here of LVN than what we saw from a season ago. I actually think that's going to be beneficial to him. He's also in a very similar position from a rotational defensive end standpoint. You're expecting Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith to play a ton. Kingsley Enagbare is going to play, and Brenton Cox looks like somebody that could help out as well. Colby Wooden is getting some snaps at defensive end. So there are a lot of snaps to go around there, but there are going to be some rotational snaps that LVN probably plays. He's not going to play, unless there's injuries, a full 60, 70 snap game, which is a good thing. You want those guys fresh and active. But now the big thing for LVN is, can he take that step in year 2? Can he stay home when he needs to? Can he be a better player against the run? And can he start building a pass rush plan? He's basically on that Rashawn Gary plan. Redshirt, first season with a couple hundred snaps, and LVN played more than that than Gary did as a rookie. Then year 2, get even more involved in the defense, and then eventually become a starter and then a big-time player for the team. But he's going to absolutely have to take that step and hopefully follow a very similar trajectory, even better than what Rashawn Gary has shown in Green Bay. Number 22, another projection player here, Javon Bullard. second round pick this year, this might be aggressive. You could put him back a few spots, and I certainly would not complain about that because this is a unknown. Really liked what I saw on film at Georgia. I do think he's going to come in and earn that starting safety position. So number 22 is basically like the last of your starters, right? So that kind of feels right, especially just not knowing what he's going to be in the NFL. But man, does he have versatility. He's going to be able to play in the box. He's going to be able to play in the post. He's going to be able to play in the slot. And the fact that they're already challenging him and giving him slot snaps tells me that they have faith in him and belief in him, that they can teach him to do a variety of different things, and he's going to be able to hang along with it. So I'm excited about it. There's no guarantee here for Bullard, meaning he's going to have to compete against Anthony Johnson Jr. He's going to have to compete against Evan Williams. We'll see what Kitano Oladapo can do when he gets to camp. So it's not just a free ticket to the starting safety spot opposite Xavier McKinney. There's a ton of competition there. But yes, I do expect him to win it. Yes, I do think he's going to be a pretty significant upgrade from that number 2 safety spot that we saw a season ago. And I'm, certain that he is going to bring an intensity and an energy to that position that I think is frankly quite needed. So excited about Bullard. Again, this may be a little high for a rookie that we haven't seen play yet, but he comes in at number 22 on the list. Number 21, Keyshawn Nixon. Currently starting slot corner. We saw some ups and downs from Keyshawn as a full-time primary slot corner a season ago, but I did really believe that he got better as the season went along. And we've talked about how difficult that position is to play because of all the different flavors of players that you are going to get from the running backs, wide receivers, tight ends of all shapes and sizes at that spot that you're going to have to go against. And they get, can go any direction that they want, and you don't have the sideline to help you. And you have to be able to stop the run, and you have to be able to blitz. It's just an unreal job description that very few in the NFL can live up to. But he was okay doing it. And at times, especially at the end of the year, I thought he was good and came up with that huge interception against Patrick Mahomes to seal that game against the Chiefs. And then, yeah, he's also a first-team All-Pro kick returner for the last 2 years. And with changing kick return rules, could be even more valuable because of that. So I think this is a warranted spot for Keyshawn Nixon at number 21. Could also probably play some, on offense if you really wanted him to, needed him to. Only one snap there, on last season, 1 or 2. I think it was just 1 last season. But I think there's more opportunities out there if they want to use him in some unique ways. But I hope he continues to improve as a slot corner. I think he can, and just kind of carry over what he was doing at the end of last year. And then again, be that huge kick returner with these new kick return rules, which should set up Green Bay with great field position, hopefully over and over again this upcoming year. Number 20, another player in a contract year that I think we're all hoping has one of his best seasons of his career. That's TJ Slayton. Slayton has so much ridiculous ability that it's not funny. At 320, 330 pounds, with the ability to get into the backfield and actually penetrate and cause some chaos while also holding up at the line of scrimmage and at the point of attack, it's just a rare type of dude. They just don't make many guys like TJ Slayton that can move the way he does at the size that he is. He's tough to move, and he can get into the backfield. The issue is it is extremely inconsistent. I've used this definition for TJ Slayton on numerous occasions, but there are times where you look at TJ Slayton, there'll be a game where you're just like, he looks unbelievable. And you're expecting that again. And it doesn't happen. And then there in like a 10-game stretch, you're going to get one amazing game from TJ Slayton. You're going to get one really bad game where he's getting blown off the ball for no apparent reason whatsoever. And you're going to get 8 of the most nondescript games where you just don't notice him at all. And that's not the worst thing in the world. That's a average player. That's a starting caliber player where you're maybe not winning games because of him, but you're not losing games because of him. And you need guys like that, especially on the defensive line, who are not losing. They're holding up and they're doing their job more often than not. There's value to that type of player. But in a contract year, I'm hoping in a 10-game stretch, we get 3-4 of those unstoppable games and maybe 0 of those games where he's getting blown off the ball for no apparent reason. If he can have a little bit more focus, a little bit more energy, a little bit more intensity, he's going to get a big deal in free agency next year. Maybe not from Green Bay, maybe from some other team, or maybe it is from Green Bay, but there is so much more meat on that bone for TJ Slayton. I'm hoping this is the year he really, truly, finally breaks out and becomes a big-time player, both for the Packers and for his pocketbook next year in free agency. Number 19 is the last rookie on this list. Again, another huge projection here. Quite frankly, I almost wanted to put him a little bit higher. That's Edgerrin Cooper. He's going to, in all likelihood, be the starting linebacker next to Quay Walker. And I think it is a matter of time. And this is, again, I don't want to put the expectations on Edgerrin Cooper when we haven't even seen him play a single snap yet. But if things go according to plan, I think it's a matter of time before he becomes the number one linebacker on this team. He is impressive as hell from a speed and athleticism standpoint. I told the story of him bursting into the backfield, and I'm standing next to Paul Brettel on the sideline, and both him and I don't even need to say a word. We just looked at each other. It's just different. It's just different. There is a speed and athleticism there that it's like he's the layman cliche shot out of a cannon. It's seriously, you don't even necessarily see him. You're not watching him specifically, and all of a sudden you just see this blur shoot through the line of scrimmage, and it's Edgerrin Cooper, and he's in the backfield. And it's when you see linebackers a lot of time get to the backfield or right around there, it's a lot of times it's at the line of scrimmage. These are like 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He's there that fast. So he's gonna have to cover. He's gonna have to continue to be a really good blitzer, which they utilized him at in OTAs and mini camps, and I think he's gonna be a phenomenal blitzer. But it's a long ways to go before he reaches anywhere near his potential, but the potential is so freaking high. And we saw glimpses of it already in OTAs and mini camps that had to put him at number 19 on this list. And number 18 is his counterpart, Quay Walker. It's a big season for Quay. If he gets his 5th-year option picked up next year or not will be in large part due to how he performs this season. I think we all saw a jump from Quay from year 1 to year 2. I don't think any of us felt like it was as big enough of a jump as we were hoping for. He's a starting linebacker, and a lot of times starting linebackers take a few years. Man, that middle of the field, we talked about it with slot corner, inside linebacker, and we're going to experience it, I'm sure, too, with Edgerrin Cooper. But, man, teams are just putting you in a blender. From play action fakes to eye candy everywhere, pre-snap motion, like just all of it. And then they're running 3 different players at you in different directions to try to get you to go in one. Like, you are absolutely in a blender. You're in no man's land, and teams are attacking off-ball linebackers consistently with everything they can possibly throw at them. It's why I don't believe in the idea that off-ball linebacker is this non-premium position. You need good linebackers in the modern NFL because these offensive coaches, the Shanahans and the LaFleurs and the McVays of the world, they are going to attack that middle of the field, and they're going to be relentless. And like I said, they're going to make the linebackers' heads spin with all the different things that they're throwing at them. So this is an opportunity for Quay. In all likelihood, he's going to be the green dot. No more Devondre Campbell. He is the guy in that linebacker room from a veteran stand. I mean, obviously Eric Wilson's been there longer, but Wilson's not expected to play a ton on defense. So he's going to be the guy. And this is another opportunity for him to take that step as a former first-round pick that we were all hoping for. And I would argue he's not super off track yet. It's a player that didn't play a ton in college. He was utilized a little bit less. And then as a rookie, he got his feet wet immediately as a starter, opposite Devondre Campbell. But it takes a couple of years for that position, in the NFL more often than not. So pair that with the fact that he didn't play a ton in college. I think it's still fair to expect a potential jump from Quay, but it kind of needs to be now. And I think everyone's hoping that this is the year where we see that first-round pick, Quay Walker, show up, ball out, and show exactly what he's capable of. Because, again, another player that in flashes has looked really impressive. Now we need to see the consistency. All right, number 17, Carl Brooks. Love me some Carl Brooks. I talked about it in my Superpower episode. His quick burst off the line of scrimmage with an arm over is beautiful. It is... I don't want to call him a one-trick pony. I think he's got a little bit more to his game, but that one move is going to get him pressures like every single game. But of course, teams are going to pick up on it more. Offensive linemen are going to be ready for it. It's going to be on the scouting report, and teams are going to try to shut that down. So it's going to be paramount for Carl Brooks in year 2 to put some more moves in his arsenal. But listen, he's got the skill set. He has a natural ability to get to the quarterback. He's had it since probably forever, but certainly we saw it in college as well. And he didn't have the huge RAS. He didn't come from a big program. But I talk about it all the time when I'm scouting pass rushers is some guys just have that hunting mentality that they know how to get to the quarterback. And it doesn't matter who's across from them. Doesn't matter where they line up. Doesn't matter what moves they have or what, none of it matters. They just know how to get to the quarterback. Carl Brooks was that consistently in college. He showed it again last year, and I'm expecting even more of it in year 2. Number 16 is Devonte Wyatt. And quite frankly, if you wanted to switch these two, I wouldn't be too upset by it. Karl Brooks has shown the ability to finish some of those plays where Devonte Wyatt's struggled with that a little bit. But I do think Wyatt is still underrated. I do think he showed last year that he was getting better. He took a pretty significant, kind of like Quay, he took a step in year 2. Like Quay, not the step that I think we were hoping, where he was going to become this really dominant interior defensive lineman. But now you have a player that's making these strides, that's getting better, and now in a defense that is tailored to his skill set. Joe Barry's was not. Joe Barry and Devonte Wyatt were in two different worlds for, I think, how they wanted to play the game. And I'm not saying Devonte Wyatt wasn't doing what he was asked. He was, but it wasn't utilizing Devonte Wyatt's skill set the way that I think you would ideally want it to when you spend a first-round pick on that type of player. Now you're running a defense that the best thing you can do is get upfield and penetrate and get into the backfield and cause chaos. Hello, Devonte Wyatt. That's what he does best. And no more having to wait and hold and see how things develop. Nope, we're getting upfield, we're causing chaos. That is going to be a huge benefit for Devonte Wyatt. And because of that, I expect a huge jump from him, maybe better and bigger than anyone else on the team this upcoming season. 14 and 15, two players at the same position. Put them in whatever order you would like. I'm going number 15, Luke Musgrave, and number 14, Tucker Kraft. Yes, I'm going Tucker Kraft over Luke Musgrave. I've talked about this before. I think Tucker Kraft is the more overall well-rounded tight end. I think Musgrave is a bigger playmaker, a bigger threat down the field, somebody that has a little bit of that gravity where he can get up the seam. And I don't think he's a terrible blocker. I think he gives a lot of good effort, hits his landmarks, and does a good enough job of getting in the way. But I think Kraft is a better blocker. I think Kraft's better after the catch. I think he has certainly a little bit better balance. And what I saw in Kraft once he got the opportunity to start when Musgrave was out was a true number one well-rounded tight end as a rookie coming from a smaller school that in OTAs and minicamps was lost. And he made that huge jump as a rookie. That is a massive sign. I think Kraft is going to take off in a pretty significant way. I think Musgrave is too. I really do. But I think Kraft I give the edge to because of just being a bit more of a well-rounded player. But the sky is the limit for both of these two players at tight end. Green Bay could have a massively dynamic duo at that spot if they take the jump that I think they're capable of. But going slightly in Kraft's favor here, Musgrave at 15, Tucker Kraft at 14. If you would like to swap them, I will have no argument with you whatsoever. Number 13, we're going to get to a lot of wide receivers here really quick. Number 13, I'm starting with Romeo Doubs. And it feels a little bit unfair of the top 4 wide receivers to put Romeo at the bottom, especially when there's a chance that he's kind of the de facto number 1. He has developed that relationship with Jordan Love. Jordan feels very comfortable throwing his way. He is a little bit more of that possession wide receiver. You can throw him, some jump balls, some back shoulder fades, and he's going to go out and get it for you. Now, he's a little bit inconsistent with his hands at times. Yes, he has strong hands, but sometimes those strong hands always don't pay off for him. But we saw in the playoffs last year, I think, sort of the true form of Romeo Doubs. I don't think that what we've seen from Romeo so far is even his final form. I think he can still get a lot better. And I think we started seeing that at the end of last year, specifically in the playoffs. This is a big-time wide receiver. Now, I know some of the inefficiencies that show up on the advanced analytics with Romeo. I know he doesn't have that game-breaking, just playmaking ability that we saw, see from some of these other younger, more explosive wide receivers, but he's just really good. And his route running is good. His hands are good. He can play inside. He can play outside. He can win with any route. He can win over the middle of the field. Like, he just does everything. And he's not a bad, terrible blocker either. So he's a really good player. I think number 13 on this list is fair. If you want to put him in front of some of the other wide receivers that we're about to get to, again, you can kind of put these 4 wide receivers in any order that you want, and I'm not going to have a huge argument with you. But for me, he comes in as the 4th wide receiver. I expect him to kind of be more than that this season, at least is how often they feature him. But from a talent standpoint, I'm going number 4, but it kind of feels a little unfair if I'm being honest. All right, number 12, Preston Smith. Love me some Preston. He has overachieved and just overdone my expectations for him over the last 3 seasons. Now, I thought he came in really strong that first year, then fell off a little bit the second year. And then it was kind of wondering, all right, is he going to kind of go the same way as Zadarius Smith where you just kind of move on? but Preston's been a great leader in the locker room. He's had back to back to back, just really nice, solid seasons. Not anything Pro Bowl caliber, not anything that you're going to, put on the tape and be like, oh my God, this guy's just dominating, but just a really good football player that rarely makes mistakes, that you can do a little bit of everything with. And thankfully, we're probably going to see a little less of him or a lot less of him in coverage with Jeff Hafley and him playing more of a defensive end position in a 4-3. So we can hopefully eliminate those plays from Preston's arsenal a little bit more. And I think him playing in this defense with the ability to get upfield is going to really play to his strengths. And I also believe that Preston Smith's the best defensive end run defender on the team, better than Rashawn, better than Enigbari, better than LVN, and anyone else at defensive end on the team. So I do think that is something he does very, very well, setting the edge. And, you need those guys as well on your team. So really good football player. Best days are probably behind him, but certainly somebody that you're still expecting to help the Packers in a pretty significant way this upcoming season. Number 11, somebody I wanted to probably put even higher. You know how much I love him. Dontavian Wicks comes in as number 3 on the wide receiver list. If you want to put him higher, trust me, I get it. I think there's a really good chance he's the most talented wide receiver on this team. I think there's a really good chance he's the best wide receiver on this team. I don't think he was quite there yet, but my goodness, did he show the potential to be that. The route running is fantastic. The releases off the line of scrimmage are fantastic. His hands, really, really good. Showed off run after the catch ability. Like, I know we, kind of talk about Devontae Adams a little bit when we watch him, and that's just stupid expectation. Like, he's never going to live up to that entirely. But at the same time, you can kind of understand why the name Devontae Adams comes up when you talk about Dontavian Wicks, because he shows some of that route running savvy and ability. There is a artistry to it. I've talked about it all the time with Devontae Adams. Wide receiver is an artist position for the really, really good ones, the best of the best. It's just there's a poetry and emotion to everything that they do, and Wicks has that. And that's why I'm so excited about him. I think he has the ability to be something special. He's not there yet, though. And we get these ideas in our head of everyone's going to reach their peak potential and be the best versions of themselves. And a lot of times that just doesn't always go according to plan. So while I'm hopeful it will for Wicks, and you know how much I think of him as a player, and even if he doesn't get any better, he is still really freaking good. But my goodness, I hope he recognizes just how great he can be. And I've talked about it on Twitter a couple times. There's been nothing that has been a bigger joy for me than the national media discovering Dontavian Wicks in the offseason. I think it was Josh Norris had a tweet about it. Then recently Mina Kimes was tweeting about him. It's been kind of a little bit of everyone that starts digging into the Packers more. They start seeing what he did and they start getting excited about it. That's, if you remember, Justice and I were talking about Wicks like after, week 1, I think even before then, like we were on the Wicks train very, very early. And obviously even just going back to his draft pick as well, but heck of a player. My hope is that when we're doing this list next year, he's in the top 10 because he has every right to be. Number 10 might be sort of controversial just because of the injury stuff. And I know he's been a bit of a lightning rod for how we evaluate him, and that's Christian Watson. To me, he's still in the conversation for best and most talented wide receiver on this team. And when he has played, he has been dynamic. It's just he hasn't played a ton. And there have been those moments too when he has been on the field where, very first play his rookie year, he drops that huge pass in Minnesota. So there have been some issues with his hands at times as well. But man, the playmaking ability is just off the charts. And like MVS, even when he's not making plays, the gravity that he has down the field of just pulling defenders with him, opening things up for everyone else is so important to this offense as well. So it is so important that he stay healthy this year, not only for himself, but certainly for the rest of this offense. If this, wants to be the peak version of its offense, it needs a peak version of Christian Watson. So if based on lack of playing time, you want to put Christian Watson lower on this list, I understand it. There's still a wide receiver left we haven't gone over yet. Spoiler alert, he's the next one. If you want to put Christian Watson even higher than him and put him as the best wide receiver on this team, I can certainly understand that as well. For me, he comes in at number 10, which means number 9 is Jayden Reed. What a rookie season. Such a dynamic playmaker. the player I expect to get the most receptions and yards for the Packers receiving this year, in large part because I think he has the most defined role. I think he is a clear slot wide receiver that they're going to play him in the slot primarily. Now, I think guys like Melton and Wicks and Watson will get time in the slot as well, but it's going to primarily be Jayden Reed. And they've shown more of a propensity to draw up plays for Jayden Reed. I would like to see him even more in the backfield, running some Texas routes. I think we are just scratching the surface of what Jayden Reed can be in this offense, but he's a more well-rounded wide receiver, just an overall wide receiver than he gets credit for. He's got some great route running. He's got really good hands. He can go up and get the ball. And I expect, again, even bigger things from what we are going to get out of Jayden Reed than even what we got a season ago, which was a really, really impressive rookie season. Number 8 is Josh Jacobs. And Jacobs is going to be expected to literally carry the load for this offense and be the guy at running back. He's having to replace Aaron Jones, which is not an easy task to do. If anyone can do it, Josh Jacobs is a good bet to do it. Green Bay is betting on youth and body build for Josh Jacobs over Aaron Jones in this situation. 3 years younger, a little bit bigger. No, not a little bit. He's bigger, he's stronger. And Green Bay's hoping that Jacobs will hold up through the course of the season, and you don't have those games like last year where Aaron Jones was just missing for so many of them. They're hoping that Jacobs is going to stay healthy and be able to perform the dynamic playmaking that Jones provided for basically his entire career in Green Bay. Now, Jacobs has one unbelievable year and 3, good years. Not great, good. But that 1 year was insane. So Green Bay is going to be hoping that he gets back to 2022, Josh Jacobs. And I'm sure Josh Jacobs is hoping for that as well. And I think there's a good chance we see it because teams will not be able to focus just on Josh Jacobs like they were with the Raiders. So I think Jacobs is in a much better position. I think the Packers are certainly banking on him being able to be that guy that can carry the load and not have those injuries. If he can do that, he might even be better than 8 on this list. If he can't, he might be a little bit lower. But I think 8 being his number is a fair number to put him at here to match his jersey number. But this feels right. Again, big free agent signing. Where he ultimately ends up after the season will be fun to kind of break down after the year and where he is next year. But for right now, again, I think number 8 is a fair spot for him. Number 7, Elton Jenkins, Mr. I don't know, what do we want to call him? Mr. Consistency. Like, what you're getting every time he steps on the field. He's just a really good player. And he might never evolve into that first team All-Pro sort of guard or maybe even second team All-Pro guard. I don't know how many, I don't even know if we call it a Pro Bowl anymore, Pro Bowl skills competition. I don't know how many Pro Bowls he's going to get voted to, but every time he's on the field, he's just really freaking good. And you can trust him and you can depend on him. I know he's had some, injuries, specifically the ACL injury he had to come back from a couple seasons ago, but overall he's been pretty durable. And he can play a variety of different spots for you. I think probably his time playing right tackle, it might be done, but he can certainly give you 3 position versatility, left guard, center, and right guard, and maybe even pinch out to left tackle or kick out to left tackle in a pinch if need be. You just trust him every time he's out on the field. He's just a really good left guard. I hope they don't have to move him a ton because I think we saw sort of a rebound from Elton Jenkins after coming off the torn ACL and having to kind of move around a little bit. I thought last year we finally saw Elton be Elton again. And that's why I kind of want to see him stay the same. I have floated the idea of moving to right guard. I don't think that's going to change anything. I think he'd be the exact same guy if they had to move him to right guard. But overall, number 7 on the list, Elton Jenkins, deservedly so, really freaking good football player. Number 6 is a player that kind of needs a little bit of that bounce back, and that's Jair Alexander. Jair's been, how do I want to define it? He was fine a season ago. He was really good the year before that, and he's been unbelievable early in his career. First team All-Pro season was phenomenal. We saw last year some of the off field, he had the suspension sort of thing and the wanting to be the captain. It felt like everything was off. And I know a lot of people just want to put that on maybe a disconnect between Joe Barry and Jair Alexander and how Joe Barry was asking his defenders to play. And hopefully that's it. By all accounts, and I mean by all accounts, Jair is hungry, motivated, locked in, and looks like the best version of himself. And if that's the case, he probably should be number 2 on this list because All-Pro, first team All-Pro Jair Alexander is one of the best players in the league, period. one of the best, if not the best cover corners in the NFL, and a modern day shutdown corner. I say that because there's no real modern day shutdown corner. It doesn't really exist anymore, but about as close as it gets when he's on his game. So that's the Jair we need to see this year. Like I said, I think he needs a bit of a bounce back. And if we see that, Jair certainly would be well worthy of being higher than number 6 on this list. But because we've seen some issues with tackling, because we've seen some of the inconsistencies there, number 6 feels right. But that's where he ends up coming in here, and no issues with that ranking whatsoever. Like I said, hopefully he's even higher next year. Number 5, another Mr. Consistency, that is Zach Tom. I feel so good about Zach Tom every time he's on the field, and true 5 position versatility. I don't care if he's left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. He's going to give you really good football every time. He's just too good. He is, he has a little bit of that David Bakhtiari autopilot to him, where it's just, he's just setting up. He knows where to put his hands. He knows how to utilize his feet. He knows how to get in the way. You're not going to really bull rush him. He's not dynamic. He's not a people mover in the run game, but he does a really good job. And he can certainly seal people and create creases for the running backs. He's awesome to watch. One of my favorite players on the team to break down on the All-22 every single week. I kind of wanted to put him even higher here, but I think number 5 is a fair ranking. And I think one of the true hidden gems in the NFL that I don't think a lot of just casual NFL fans or even the national media quite understands how good he is. He's fantastic. And like I said, I love watching him play. Number 4, Kenny Clark. Last year of his deal, we'll see if Green Bay is able to work out a contract extension for him. He was my highest graded defender a season ago, and he almost has been like almost every season of his career. He's that good. He's usually the straw that stirs the drink in the middle of that defense. Now, we're getting to a point where you don't really want him to be the guy on defense anymore. You want him to be a significant piece. We'll see how he does in this new defense with Jeff Hafley. I think he's going to excel. I really, really do. I think he has the ability to play the run so well and also get into the backfield that I think we could see a really great version of Kenny Clark. He does have some wear and tear. He is getting older. Like I said, he is in a potential contract year if Green Bay does not sign him to a contract extension, but there's no bad version of Kenny Clark. He's always good. He's always impressive. And I expect that to be the case this year, especially if he does have a full contract year this year and Green Bay doesn't sign him to a contract extension. Number 3 and number 2, I could have gone back and forth with. I'm even still thinking about it as I say this. I'm going to go number 3, Xavier McKinney. Now, I think you could actually put him at number 2, especially based on what I saw on tape. If you didn't listen to my full breakdown of Xavier McKinney, I highly recommend you checking it out. It was just out a week ago. He is so freaking good at safety. He is so consistent, so few negative plays, solid tackler, takes great angles, can play center field, can play the slot, can play in the box, can do everything you ask him to, comes up with big plays. He's got it all. And just again, my favorite thing about him is just you're almost, when I'm going through the grades for him, there's just rarely any negative. It's just all neutrals or positives, almost every play, over and over and over. And those players are so rare. Like everyone makes mistakes, and it's just like McKinney they were so few and far between. And that's what really set him apart. And then you add on top of that the playmaking, the versatility, and everything he can bring. Great against tight ends. He's going to be a big-time player for this defense, fits in perfectly, and cannot wait to watch him this upcoming year. Number 2 might feel high, but I have to go Rashawn Gary. I think this season, it is so important that we see the real, true, legit Rashawn Gary. I want to see him be a bull rusher. I want to see him convert speed to power. I thought there were times in the first half of last year, coming off of a torn ACL nonetheless, and where he was prior to the torn ACL, where he looked like a top tier defensive end or pass rusher in the NFL. That good. Like just not maybe quite to the Max Crosby, maybe not quite to the TJ Watt, that line, but like just a very small step below it. And then the second half of last year came along and it looked like he hit a wall coming off the ACL injury, and he wasn't the same, and he didn't have that same impact. We need a 17-game season out of Rashawn where he plays like he is capable of. And if he does that, it is going to have such an enormous impact on this defense that I can't even describe it. It is going to set everyone else up for success. But that's what we need to see. That's the talent he possesses. And we've seen it enough where I believe it is attainable. I don't think this is just a projection, but it has always sort of been something that's gotten in the way. Either the ACL injury or him hitting the wall a season ago, or earlier in his career, he just wasn't ready quite yet. Like, there's always been something. It is time. Kevin Green, it is time. It's time for Rashawn to be that dude. If he can, he will be well deserving of this spot. If not, he's probably going to be bounced back to that number 7, 8, 9 range on this list. So I have, as you can tell, extremely high hopes for Rashawn this upcoming season, but he's going to have to earn it. So this is a little bit aggressive. I get it, but I'm putting Rashawn Gary at number 2, and I'm hoping he has that huge breakout year and shows the NFL exactly what he is all about and what he can be as a premier NFL pass rusher. Number 1, Jordan Love. Listen, you got a franchise quarterback and you show what you did at the end of last year, you deserve to be number 1 on the list. Quarterback's the most important position in all of sports, and Jordan Love played it at a really freaking high level in the second half of last season. Now, he's going to have to continue to get better. He needs to put together a full 17-game season like that, plus playoffs. He needs to be impressive in the playoffs and in the clutch. Obviously, had that big mistake at the end of the 49ers game last year. Like, those are things he's going to have to improve on. I think it was Warren Sharp just put out a stat that, for percentage of incompletions that were errant passes, Jordan Love was pretty high. I think he was like 5th or 6th on that list. So hitting some of those layups, hitting a deep ball a little bit better, those are all things Jordan can improve upon. Nobody's crowning him and saying he's the best in the world. There's nothing he can improve on. Like, he still has things that he can do better, which should scare the rest of the NFL, quite frankly. And if he does, look the heck out, because we're going to be talking about Jordan Love in the MVP conversation if he can take that next step sincerely and like maybe even just winning it. That's how good he can be. So clearly, to me, number 1 on the list, certainly the most important Packer this upcoming season. And like I said, when you've got a franchise quarterback that can play at that level, you're just going to be the number 1 guy on pretty much every list for every single team. And Jordan Love is certainly warranted of that spot. So to break it down again, our top 30 players for the Packers in 2024, Daniel Whalen, Bo Melton, Josh Myers, Eric Stokes, Marshawn Lloyd, Carrington Valentine, Rasheed Walker, LVN, Javon Bullard, Keyshawn Nixon, TJ Slayton, Edgerrin Cooper, Quay Walker, Carl Brooks, Devontae Wyatt, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, Romeo Dobbs, Preston Smith, Dontavian Wicks, Christian Watson, number 9, Jaden Reed. Number 8, Josh Jacobs. Number 7, Elton Jenkins. 6, Jair Alexander. 5, Zach Tom. 4, Kenny Clark. 3, Xavier McKinney. 2, Rashawn Gary. And 1, Jordan Love. That is going to do it for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed this top 90 breakdown. Let me know what I got right, what I got wrong, what you would switch around. Would love to hear it. Shout out to our Hall of Fame and All-Pro members, Most Hated Minnesotan, PJ Wayne, John Wild, Shea Bardad, Brandon Paletta, Jennifer Wright, Boom Handle, Donna Lee, Lori Lord, Baby QB, David McCluskey, Donald Decker, Dan Miller, Alex Wong, Arnaldo Espinoza, Dan Gesford, and Peter Ritaka. I'll see you guys tomorrow, but until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.